So today we're going to continue to talk about absolute value, decimals, fractions, and percents, and how to convert them. But first we're going to start with absolute value. This portion of the notes you do not need to write down, you are just watching. So the first part, we are drawing the absolute value of 6. So when we draw the absolute value, we are looking at this number inside of our absolute value. We're saying that the absolute value of 6 is the distance that 6 is from 0. So starting at 0, you're going to draw an arrow to 6 on your number line. So we can count that the absolute value of 6, if we count our spaces, will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the absolute value of 6 is 6. Now for our next one, we're going to draw a model again. It says draw -4 in the model. So our definition of absolute value is the distance the number is from 0. So we're going to start at 0 and go to -4. And we can count the spaces to see our absolute value. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the absolute value of -4 is 4. We're going to do one more like this, and it says draw -8, the absolute value of -8. So we're going to start at 0 and go the whole way to -8. And we can see that from 0 to our -8, we're counting the spaces from 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That the absolute value of -8 is 8. It's 8 spaces away from 0. So now this is a different way of looking at absolute value. And this is going to be a question that's on your formative and on your summative today and tomorrow. So the absolute value of 3 is equivalent to the distance on a number line between. So we're looking at the absolute value of 3 and which of these numbers equals the same distance as our absolute value. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. So we want to look at each one of these numbers on the number line and see how many spaces are in between them. So we're going to start with A. So we're talking about 1 to 5. So we're going to count the spaces in between 1 and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 is not 3 spaces, so A won't work. Now we're going to look at 6 and 9. So starting at 6, we're going to go to 9. Count the spaces 1, 2, 3. That one could work. Let's keep going to double check. We have 4 and 6. That's 2 spaces. So that won't work because it's not equal to our absolute value. And then we have -3 and 3. If we count those spaces, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 isn't 3, so that's not going to work. So the only one that could work is B, because the distance between 6 and 9 is 3 spaces, which is equal to the absolute value of 3. Okay, we're going to do another one like this. So the absolute value of -5 is equivalent to the distance on a number line between. So first we need to take the absolute value of -5. The absolute value of -5 is the distance -5 is from 0. So the distance -5 is from 0 is 5 spaces. So we need to pick one of these numbers, or these two numbers, that are 5 spaces apart. So our first one is -5 and 5. So from -5 the whole way to 5, we're going to count our spaces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 spaces. That won't work. It's not equal to 5. So then we're going to do 3 and 5. So 3 to 5, that's 2 spaces. That won't work. Now 6 and 10. So starting at 6 going to 10. Let's count our spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not going to work because that's not equal to 5. And then our last number is 2 to 7. Let's count our spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That works. So the distance between 2 and 7 on a number line would be our answer. Okay, so now we're going to be converting decimals, or I'm sorry, we're going to be converting percents to decimals. So this is really similar to what we did in the last class, but it's kind of backwards. So the first thing we need to do is find the decimal. So we need to find the decimal point. And then we need to move the decimal two places to the left. So last time when we were making the decimal percent, we moved it 2 to the right. This time, since we're going backwards, we're going to move it 2 to the left. So over here, and this is just like we are dividing by 100 this time. So over here we have 28. When you don't see a decimal, it's at the end. We need to move it 2 spaces to the left. So 1, 2. So our decimal for 28% will be 0.28. Okay, let's look at our next example. We have 0.7%. We need to move that decimal 2 places to the left. So 1, 2, add a 0, we have 0.007. And that is our decimal. Okay, now for number 1, we have 6%. So I like to rewrite it over here. Our decimal's at the end if you can't see it behind the 6. We need to go 2 to the left. 1, 2. Fill in your zeros. We have 0.06. Remember, you cannot leave it in this form. I don't know where the decimal is. You have 2 decimals. You need to rewrite it in this form. Okay, let's look at number 2. We have 1.23%. We need to move our decimal 2 places to the left. 1, 2. Add in our zeros. We have 0.0123 as our decimal. Okay, next one. We have 342.79%. We need to move our decimal 2 places to the left. So we have 3.4279 as our decimal. Okay, at this point I want you to do 4, 5, and 6 on your own. Hit play when you're ready to check your answers. Please pause the video. Okay, for number 4, we have 16. Our decimal's at the end if we can't see it. 2 loops to the left, 1, 2. Our decimal is 0.16. Number 5, we have 72.5%. Move our decimal 2 spaces to the left, 1, 2. And now we have our number in a decimal. We have 0.725. And the last one, we have 0.0025%. So I'm rewriting my number so it's easy to see. I need to go 2 spaces to the left, 1, 2. Fill in our zeros. So we have 0.000025. Okay, now we're going to flip the page over and we're going to talk about comparing numbers. I'm sorry, don't flip the page over. So at the bottom, number 7, we are looking at 40% and 0.68%. So remember, we want to change everything to a decimal and we're going to compare these two numbers. So 40%, we need to make it a decimal. So if we can't see the decimal, it's at the end. Move it 2 spaces to the left. 1, 2. Our new number is 0.4. So is 0.4 bigger or 0.68 bigger? And if you're not sure, you can always write your numbers up and down like this and look at your place values. So if we line it up, we can see that 6 is bigger than 4, so 6 is our bigger number. Now we have 1.23, that's already in a decimal. We need to make 16% as a decimal, so we need to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So 1, 2. Our decimal is 0.16, and our sign is this way. So 1.23 is greater than 0.16 or 16%. I want you to go ahead and do number 9 on your own. Please hit play when you're ready to check your answers. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so we have 85%. So we need to write this number as a decimal. Go 2 places to the left, 1, 2. We have 0.85 as our decimal and 0.3. 0.85 is bigger, so 85% is bigger than 0.3. Okay, now we're going to flip our page, and we are going to be converting decimals to fractions. Okay, so place any number on the left of the decimal point as the whole number in your mixed number. So we're going to have any number on the left of the decimal point as the whole number in our mixed number. So if we had the decimal 1.5, or I'm sorry, if we have if we have the decimal 1.5, we need to make it into a fraction. So this 1 we're going to bring down and make it the whole number in our fraction. The second step is take away any numbers to the right of the decimal point and place them in the numerator of our fraction. So any numbers to the right, so in this case it would be 5, and it's in the numerator. The place value of the number after the decimal point becomes the denominator of the fraction. So in this case, our place value is, this is 0.5. It is in the tenths place. So we're going to put it over 10. So our fraction right now is 1 and 5 over 10. But step 4, remember to simplify the fraction. So we can simplify 5 over 10 by dividing by 5. And we'll get 1 over 2. So our number will be 1.5. Okay? So here's our examples. So the first thing we need to do is look at any numbers to the left of the decimal, and that will be the mixed number of our fraction, or the whole number of our fraction. So then we need to look at the right of our decimals, so the 4 and the 8, and those will be our numerator. And we need to look at our place values and determine what place value we're in. So there's a number in the tenths place and the hundredths place. So I'm going to make our denominator 100 because we have a number in that hundreds place. So right now we have 1 and 48 over 100, but we need to simplify. So we're going to try dividing by 4 to simplify. And that gets us to 12 over 25. We need to bring that mixed number over. So our fraction is 1 and 12/25. Okay, let's look at our second example. So the first thing we need to do is place any number to the left of the decimal as our whole number in our mixed number. So there's no number there, so we don't need to do that. Next, any numbers to the right of the decimal point, they'll be our numerator. So that 9 is going to be our numerator. We need to look at the place value of the last number in our decimal, which is that 9, and it is in the tenths place. So we're going to put 9 over 10. And that will be our answer because we can't simplify. Okay, number 3. The first thing we need to do is look at the numbers to the left of the decimal. If there's a number to the left of the decimal, it will be our whole number. We don't have any, so we're just looking at the numbers to the right of the decimal. So 54 will be our numerator. And we are looking at what place value is the furthest to the right, and that is the 4, and it is in the hundredths place, so it'll be 54 over 100. We need to simplify that, and so we can divide by 2 to simplify. And we get 27 over 50. So for our next one, again, we look to the left of our decimal. If there's a number in that place, then that will be our mixed number. If there's not, we can just write our number as a fraction. The numbers to the right of the decimal will be our numerator. So 4, 5, 7. And then we'll look at our place value, the furthest place value to the left. So we have tens, hundreds, thousands. So we need to do 457 over 1,000. And we cannot simplify that, or we don't need to, so we can just circle it. And now I want you to try numbers 5 and 6 on your own. Please pause the video when you are ready to check your answers. Or please play the video when you're ready to check your answers. Please pause. Okay, so we have no numbers to the left of our decimal, so there's no whole number. We have 77 to the right of our decimal, so that will be our numerator. And we have tenths and hundredths, so 77 over 100. We cannot simplify that, so that is our answer. Number 6, we look to the left of our decimal. If there's a number on the left, that'll be our mixed number. We do not have one, so we'll look to the right of our decimal. And that's 35 as our numerator over, we have tenths and hundredths, so it's over 100. And we can simplify this. We can divide by 5. And we get 7 over 20. So today we learned about absolute value and fraction decimal percents.